Hello, Math 85. This is test number 2 review. And if you have your packet in front of you, I'm just going to be going through each problem. And I'm going to start with number 1A. So I'm multiplying two fractions. Whoops. Can I cancel anything out? I can cancel the 3's out. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 3 once. I'm going to multiply straight across and get 4 over 8. Can I reduce that fraction? Is there any number that will go into both 4 and 8? You might say 2. I'm going to do 4. So my final answer is 1/2. I'm going to go to part B, and I'm going to divide 12 over 18 by negative 3 over 2. So remember, when I'm dividing, I keep flip change. So I'm going to keep the first fraction. I'm going to flip the second, and I'm going to change division to multiplication. Now, if you want, you can multiply straight across and then reduce it at the end, or we can cancel. So remember, we can cancel up and down or straight across. Whoops, up and down or diagonal. Sorry about that. So I know 2 can go into 18 9 times. And I know 3 can go into 12 4. And I do have a negative here. So if I multiply straight across, I get negative 4 over 9. Part C, 5q over 8 times 24p over 35q. Now, if you remember, if you have letters that match up, we can cancel them out. So I'm going to cancel out my q's. I don't have another p to cancel out with this top p right here, so I need to leave that p up there with the 24. I can cancel. 5 goes into 35 7 times, and 8 goes into 8 once, and 8 goes into 24 3 times. That's all I can do, so I'm going to multiply across. I get 1 times 3p, which is 3p, and 1 times 7, which is 7. So my answer is 3p over 7. So part D is 28 divided by 7y over 3. And again, I want to keep, flip, change. I'm going to put a 1 underneath my 28. So I've got 28 over 1 divided by 7y over 3. So I'm going to keep the 28 over 1. I'm going to flip the 7y over 3, and it now becomes 3 over 7y. And I'm going to change the division to multiplication. There is not another y to cancel this out with, so I'm going to leave it with the 7. 7 goes into 28 4 times, so I'm going to cancel the 7. Goes in, 28 divided by 7 is 4. I don't think I can do anything else, so I'm going to just multiply straight across and get 12 over 1y, or 12 over y. So that's number 1. Number 2 is an absolute value problem. So, what is 20 minus 6? It's 14. And let's keep the absolute value of negative 8. So let's take the absolute value of each of these. What's the absolute value of positive 14? It is just 14. What's the absolute value of negative 8? It's 8. Remember, absolute value always comes out positive. So my answer is 6. Now 3, I'm just going to look at the fraction that is represented in the picture and write it in the blank. So how many shaded pieces do I have for A? I've got 5 out of a total of 6 squares. So my fraction is 5 over 6. For part B, if you count up the darkly shaded rectangles, I've got 7 out of a total of 9. So I've got 7 shaded over 9 total, which is the fraction 7 over 9. I'm going to go to page 2, number 4. I've got negative 8 and positive 6. Well, I know I've got more with the negatives, so I know my answer is going to be negative. And what's 8 minus 6? It's 2. So my answer is negative 2. I've got a negative 12 for part B plus a negative 13. And if you remember, when we add, when we have two negatives and we're adding them together, we get a negative. So when I'm adding a negative 12 and a negative 13, I just simply add them together and I get negative 25. For C, I have 9 minus a minus 11. And what happens when I have the double negative? Well, that turns to 9 plus 11, which is just 20. So whenever you have this double negative, you change to positive. So that's just 9 plus 11, which is 20. Now I've got to multiply. I've got a negative 8 times a negative 3. I've got a negative times a negative, which is a positive 24. Remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. For part E, I have a negative 25 divided by 5. What happens when I have a negative divided by a positive? Remember, different signs mean the answer is going to be negative. Here I had the same signs and it was positive. So a negative 25 divided by a negative 5 is a negative 5. Now 5 and 6, I did not teach that. You should have watched that on the videos from Dr. Natalie McGaffey. And you can use your calculator on 5 and 6. I'm just going to write the answers. And if you want to give those answers to me as just a regular fraction, or if you want to make it a mixed number, you can do that. So you're punching these both into your calculator that was required from the class, for the class, the TI-30XS. And like I said, that was on one of the videos I sent to you. And again, you can give me the answer in fraction form or mixed number form. And 6 is also where we need to use the calculator. Any mixed number, it's easier to use the calculator. So you can give, oh, this is just, this comes out to be a improper fraction. So I can't even write it as a mixed number. So the answer to that is negative 32 over 45. Okay, I'm going to page 3. I'm going to do 7, A and B. And 7 says to evaluate. And I've got A, which is giving me 2w squared when w is equal to -3. So wherever there's a w, which is right here, I'm going to plug in -3, because remember in class we talked about evaluate, meaning plug in. So I'm going to take my 2 and I'm going to multiply it by -3 squared. And I always put if you're putting it in the calculator, I always put a parentheses around any negative. So what is -3 times -3? It's +9. So I have 2 times 9, which equals 18. Part B wants us to evaluate 4m minus 2n when m equals 6 and n equals -8. So for m, I'm going to plug in 6, and when the number and the letter are together like that, that means there's an implied multiply in between the two. And here I have 2 times n, so I'm going to multiply that by -8. So I've got 4 times 6 minus 2 times -8. So 4 times 6 is 24 minus 2 times -8. Well, what's a negative times a negative? It's a positive. So this becomes 24 plus 16, and my final answer is 40. I'm going to stop right there at the end of 7. And I'm going to pick up with 8 on the next video. So I will see you then. Again, if you ever have any questions, make sure you send me an email.